Welcome to our Morning Throners podcast. I'm Nelson.
I'm Jeff.
I'm Glow.
And I'm Kyle.
And we're the fucking Morning Throners.
Welcome back to another episode of your favorite Song of Ice and Fire podcast. We are the Morning Throners, the best out there. If you're not liking and following and checking out our new Discord, what are you doing? What could you possibly be doing?
Check out the Discord.
How do they get to our Discord, Nelson?
Go to the Discord. It's in the link below.
Okay.
Check out the link
Dude,
below.
not everyone
We're here.
uses Discord, though. Don't discriminate
Yeah, we'll
against
figure it out.
YouTubers.
Figure it out.
Not everybody gets that link.
Traffic.
How do they get to the Discord? Because if you're not watching on YouTube, there's not going to be a fucking link below.
There is.
On Spotify?
Yes.
There's still a link.
There should be a link.
Okay. Well, good.
Yep.
Now I learned something. Thanks for that information. Now back to Jeff.
All right. So we're here ready to talk Tyrion 5. Another lengthy page one. I felt like this was a lot of page.
Similar to the last Tyrion chapter.
I guess a couple things happened for sure,
long?
but man, I don't know, man. It's a good amount of pages.
I didn't
Tyrion's-
take any notes, so I whipped through it when I read today.
Both the last two Tyrions had like kind of three main stopping points. The last one was Pycelle, Littlefinger, Varys, and now this one is Helene, Cleo's Frey, Cersei.
16 pages. I mean, it was decent.
Yep. Kyle, what do you think?
Yeah, what'd you think, Kyle?
I mean, so it was good. I was hoping to figure out a little bit more, and we'll get into it at the end, but I was still left feeling stupid. So
Gotcha.
That's how you're supposed to feel after reading a chapter.
I did talk to Kyle about this chapter a little bit, and he seemed a little confused still. I think, and he's like, he was hesitant that I was going to give too much away if we like got too much into it. So I'm going to try and stay away from that.
Mm-hmm. You definitely won't be able
Nelson,
to do that. But
when we get to that part, if I start going crazy, stop me. And all I'm going to do is play a quote that we've already read in the last podcast. I'll just play it from our last podcast, and I think it might clear some things up.
The last podcast or last Tyrion podcast?
Chapter, yeah.
So he said, oh, once we talk through it on the podcast, you'll understand more. I can probably explain it. And I'm like, don't explain it. Like, isn't the whole point for me to be dumb about all this? Like,
yeah, and people might not even know what we're talking about right now. It doesn't come up till.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I don't know exactly what you're talking about either.
Yeah,
I'm
talking about the 1, 2, 3. I'm talking about the 1, 2, 3 thing from the last chapter. It kind of gets resolved, if almost completely in this chapter.
Yeah, I mean,
I think Kyle, you might have a shot at that.
All right, let's go.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. So we're starting off, and Tyrion is in a cold spot. Kind of like, I didn't remember where we were coming in at. I was like, fuck, cold. Like, what the fuck's he doing? Like, up back at the wall, blah, blah, blah. We find out that they are underneath Rhaenys Hill, or like somewhere around there, and they are with the pyromancers.
Yeah, they're in the guild hall of the alchemists.
Their guild is underneath the ground, and they must be pretty fucking low.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think their guild is underneath the ground. I think it's just the storeroom for all these.
That's where they are.
Clay pots, yeah.
And there's been a couple times I feel like where we've read something about like Tyrion heard about this in the first chapter.
There was enough wildfire to burn down the city.
And like I don't remember, in all my read-throughs, I've never remembered that first chapter talking about this, but I remember this like long conversation. And there's like 1 or 2 times where Kyle brought up wildfire, and I'm like, there's no way this has happened yet. But no, this is what I kept on being confused about in those other chapters. I was like, why does Kyle know about the wildfire when we?
Well, they've mentioned wildfire. I feel a couple times.
He knew there was enough in the city to burn the city down.
And I feel like they kind of mentioned. We hear it again, like Ares, the Mad King, was like burning people. I feel like.
I'm not exactly sure what we heard when and where. Again, I'm obviously confused on that. But
jeez, Nelson, you're supposed to be our expert over here. You're supposed to have all
I feel like
details.
we kind of heard like mentions of wildfire without
wildfire's in there now.
A definition of what it actually was. Like we just heard it was a thing, and no one really ever like, oh, it's this weird.
Yeah,
I mean, it was always
saying
napalm to me essentially, and that's really what it is, pretty much.
Yep. Yeah.
What was the real stuff that they used to use back in like the Roman Greek times? I forget what they used to call it.
Yeah, so George has said this is based off something called Greek fire, which is just like something that people that like historians today don't even think they know the exact recipe to recreate. But like he basically says he takes things from real history and then takes them up, like notches them up to like 11 or 12, right? Like the Erie's a castle. It's not possible, but like based on potentially a real castle that was built into a cliff or whatever, right? So this isn't like exactly what the properties of Greek fire, but yeah, based off like a similar type of thing.
So a lot of the first conversation is with old wisdom, as they're called. This cat's name is
Helene.
Helene.
So we actually have seen this guy before.
Well, yeah,
recently.
Only
He's
once talked
before.
to Tyrion before, hasn't he?
We've seen this guy once before.
Yeah, he showed up with
and
Cersei
recently.
just a minute ago.
Yeah, he was. So in the last Tyrion chapter, when he was walking from like Littlefinger to Varys or Pycelle to Littlefinger or whatever, Cersei came out and he had that short conversation with her. He was one of the people that was with Cersei. Yep.
No.
Who was the first pyromancer that he talked to about wildfire? Had to be him too, no?
I don't think it was
No, but he didn't talk to anybody. I think like Bronn or somebody told him about it when they were running through the city.
Or it was like one of the King's Guard or something, like.
Or in the council,
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah,
council maybe.
So we basically spend a lot of time. They talk about their supplies, how they're stored, where they're stored,
why they're stored
the
that way.
different years. Yeah, they're in little
very
clay
volatile.
plots
It's
shaped
grenades,
as fruit.
essentially.
Yeah.
No, these ones aren't shaped of fruit. These ones are about the size of a grapefruit. The ones that Ares had hidden were all shaped. He had them shaped as fruit, I think is what they say later.
I didn't
for
get
some
that
reason.
though. Why?
I don't know either. But
You
now
like
he calls them like
bananas?
the ripe fruits, right?
Yeah, is
I
he a
was
big
thinking,
banana
like,
fan?
It was
apples
round
and-
and ruddy, a fat clay grapefruit.
The size of a grapefruit.
No, a fat clay grapefruit.
Oh, they're all actually fruits.
I'm just reading.
I don't think it was. I think it's the size of a grapefruit. is what it
Tyrion
means.
lifted one for inspection. It was round and ruddy, a fat clay grapefruit.
I think it's just
In
a
his hand.
descriptive word.
in his
like,
hand, right?
It would fit comfortably in the grip of a normal man.
Oh. I don't know.
He doesn't say anything about
You're
size.
right, yeah.
I just thought everyone was a
would fit
fruit.
in our hands, a grapefruit.
If I'm wrong, it really doesn't matter.
It doesn't really
You're
matter.
fucking
yeah.
wrong, Jeff.
Well, I'm not.
They're not
I'm
in the
not-
shapes of bananas. Okay,
I'm
Unless
never
they're
wrong.
like weird fruits, like bananas and kiwis and shit. But yeah,
like
grapes.
the
You
ones
got grape,
below.
grape pots.
a bunch of grapes. Yeah, and they just
A
clank
bunch of
together
grapes,
and
yeah,
break on you.
basically,
Yeah.
So we see this green, oil almost, right? But it's a little bit more viscous right now because of how cold it is down below.
Yeah, he knows it would be green, but he can't actually see it because it's dark there. And the other thing, like you mentioned, it's cold. So he brought the Shadowskin cloak he got from in the first book, fighting on the way up to the Vale.
No.
That Shadowskin cloak.
Let's be real. Like that's. It sounds like he's dressed a little dangerously to be down here. He's like, I was a big puffball of fur. Like, isn't he gonna be bumping into these things on the tables
very
and shit?
flammable.
No,
He's
not
being
even
very,
that.
very
Just like,
he's being very, very careful.
yeah, I know, but like, think about when you have like a winter jacket on, you like brush up against the door frame by accident and stuff like that.
Jeff's family has a fucking kick-ass tailgate at all the Eagles games that I always go to. And I think on 2 occasions, there have been, like during the wintertime, they set up like a tent with like a space heater on the inside. And on 2 occasions, the girls have come in with parkas on and burnt the parkas on the space
Burn
heater.
their parkers with no fucking clue.
That's
like
what I'm saying.
fools.
If I didn't know that, I would have
That's
told you
pretty
you're an
funny.
idiot. But like that's basically exactly what we're talking about. Like a really hot thing and then the fucking coat. So
Well, and no, I don't think they're
None of
burning. I
these
just
are
mean
hot.
like he
Yeah,
could
they're not
bump the
hot right now,
table, or
Yeah.
push one of them over, start a fire, which is going to light all of them on fire.
yeah. Yeah, I
Anyway.
gotcha. I think it's just more of he makes a point about it later. He's like, basically, like, if you tell me something, I'm gonna listen and take advice on it, right? I think is kind of what it's setting up here. Yeah, so it's thick, and the pyromancers don't call it wildfire, and they don't call each other
The
pyromancers
substance.
or alchemists. They call it the substance, and they call each other wisdom. So like this is wisdom Helene. I think Jeff even said that.
Yeah,
earlier.
Yeah.
He
Yep.
did. It was a
And we
good
get
call.
into the history a little bit of how the alchemists used to be like, I guess, a pretty like thought after group of people, pretty smart. And now the maesters have just passed them by.
Yeah,
Like
they're like, fuck these
the
guys.
maesters know basically mostly everything, I would say, about what people care about, or at least try and study it. And the alchemists are just like a dying science.
And
Just like in real life.
now they don't even pretend to transmute metals is one of the things Tyrion says. So like he if there was any like thing to this, he never like gave any, like we know there's some weird stuff going on, right? Like we saw Dany give birth to dragons, like this isn't a straight historical fiction. There's some magic going on. So like these guys might have some tricks, and Tyrion is just like completely discrediting it. I mean, we heard what he was saying when he was at the wall, like Grumpkins and Snarks and stuff. He doesn't believe in the others. So this could be another one of those things. But yeah, Tyrion basically thinks at this point they're basically just a wildfire factory. And they get some of the properties of wildfire, how it behaves, like why it's so good. Again, I don't know if we got this before, but he basically says water is not going to do shit. It's just going to.
I don't
burn
know if
till
we
it's
got
gone.
into this detail. We might have
Nah, yeah, it
mentioned
wasn't
that
like this, but-
the shit just burns, but
Yep, so water won't quench it, and then the other thing is it like
Soaks
seeps into
everything.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's
Wood,
how
steel.
Thoros lights his sword.
Yep,
It melts his sword every time.
probably yeah, because Gendry said something about that, right?
So just a question, like say you drank this, right? You just drank the liquid. Are you fine?
No, Because it sounds like it immediately lights on fire.
No, it needs
just
a.
needs a.
It would need a heat source, I would think.
It would need a.
I mean, your ass
maybe your body. Maybe your
drinking
body's hot
gasoline.
enough.
No, I think isn't it. I mean, it's to me, it sounds like it's as soon as it touches the atmosphere. Like,
well,
that's not what I took.
I don't
like
think
they said,
so,
leave it
yeah.
in sunlight. Like they said, leave it in sunlight, and it'll like. I don't
it
even
just
think
gets
a spark.
warm enough. Like,
Warm enough, but I don't know if that meant atmosphere. That's not how I took it.
I mean,
Like
it sounds
Tyrion's
like
looking
it's-
at it and seeing it's viscous, so like it's exposed to the atmosphere, right? It's exposed to open oxygen. It's not a sealed clay pot, if that's what you're saying.
These
At
are
least the one
sealed
that
with wax.
But the one that
That's
Tyrion's
all.
looking at is viscous. Most of them
So-
probably are, but the one
so
that
they
Tyrion's
do
looking
say
at, you can see
that
it's viscous.
as it ages, it gets more.
Volatile. Fickle.
Yeah, like it's more ready to roll, I guess. But I would assume that. All right, maybe drinking it is you're going to be fucked up.
I mean,
and
you
that
can't
maybe,
just drink gasoline if you want to
Yeah.
look at it that way.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly. That's
I
kinda
meant
what I'm
like
thinking.
it's not fucking like burning your. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. I don't know. We don't even know what the fuck it is. I'm saying it's not like. So when I first read this book, I thought like it was just fucking fire. Like I didn't know it was a liquid that needed to be ignited
Gotcha.
and then it would burn. Like I thought that shit was just fire. You know, it's
Yeah.
like a stronger fire. But
Gotcha. And then so this is where I think it's definitely more of a liquid that needs to be ignited. I don't think it's like I guess the open air thing is almost kind of what is like what you're saying, Jeff, is like what kind of cause. I don't think that's quite what it is.
yeah, like there could be a puddle of it on the ground, and then
Exactly. At least that's the way I take it. Yep.
like if they were up at the wall with a pot of this and they poured it down on
It'd
the
be
ground,
good for a while,
then
probably.
they would need to light it.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. In the cold, yeah. I think they'd be okay because it's like viscous. It'd be like where Tyrion is now.
Yeah.
So starts getting into a little bit of the history. Somebody want to read that real quick? When Tyrion asks like why it doesn't seep into the other clay pots.
So yeah, it does seep into the clay. There's a whole bunch of old pots down below from King Ares that those are shaped like the fruits that we were talking about, and he said they're riper than ever because like they're like extremely dangerous now. Just some serious foreshadowing in my opinion. But
And he's saying they probably should. Yeah, exactly. He's saying they probably should have been destroyed.
there's a ton of them though, and it was like too much to destroy. Like, how do you destroy?
And because a lot of the pyromancers
a lot
were
of them
killed
died.
during the sack. Yeah,
Yeah, they don't
the
even
sack
know
of
where
King's
they're at.
Landing.
all of them, they're like finding some of them occasionally. Like they found some underneath the Sept.
200 of them.
Or the
Yeah,
Sept.
next building to Sept. Yeah.
And he's like, the Sept, or what is his name? The Septin. He's like, what the fuck?
So that he made sure himself that they were safely moved away from them, and then Tyrion starts being like, "You did a great job, but can we still use those old ones that we're finding?" And he's like, "Yes, but they have to be used very carefully." And we get into like how it gets more dangerous as it gets older.
Any flame will set it afire. Any spark.
Yep.
Too much heat and jars will blaze up on their own accord. So
It is not wise to let the jars sit in
So I
sunlight.
guess that answers that. Yeah, I think this is where I got the misconception on how it just breaks and explodes.
Yeah.
This guy Helene is a big like pat me on the back for doing my job
Yeah.
type of guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why Tyrion even cuts him off at the. He's like, "Yeah, you did a great job. I'm sure. Just like shut
Yeah.
up. Like tell me more about what I need to know." Rather
Yeah,
than
give me the info,
Yeah.
not that we did a good job about doing this. Yeah. So then they start getting into numbers.
Mm-hmm.
What we got?
They believe that they can reach their 10,000 quota.
Yep. Right now we got about 8,000, I think.
8,420 or something.
No, 7,840.
Yeah.
There it
And
is.
then they said that's 4,000 from Ares though. So that's like
That's including
4,000 dangerous
4,000 of
ones.
the risky ones. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
4,000 fickle ones.
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, but we'll probably be able to get the full 10,000 that we promised Cersei.
Assuming
He's like-
our enemies give you the
Yeah,
time.
exactly. That's
I
what
hated
Tyrion's
the way
thinking.
this guy talked, by the way.
Helene?
Helene.
Yeah.
Very
Hmm.
interesting thing.
It's Pycellus. He's Pycellus. Like
None of you guys listened to the audiobook, right?
No.
The guy who does the audiobook got given like a cameo role to play this guy in this. He's only really in this scene in this show, right? So like I think he has like maybe one or two like really short parts, but like this is like his big scene. But this is the role that the audiobook guy plays. So and then he's since passed away. Rest in peace,
Oh, R.I.P. bro.
Roy Dotrice, absolute legend.
What the
Way
fuck
better
kind of
Tyrion than I could do.
trivia is that? Like, why do you know that?
What do you mean? Like, I think a lot of people, if you know that, leave a comment. Tell us in the Discord if you're a big Road to Trees fan. A lot of people really like the audiobook.
Okay.
The audiobook's good. The guy does how many fucking voices all by himself? You know what I mean?
Oh, he does them all. Okay, I thought that was like
it's
just
like us.
one. Yeah,
Some people don't like all of his voices.
Well, I thought you were saying Helene was his only voice in the audiobook. Is all.
No, his
it's
his only.
That's how I took it.
No,
that's why I was confused.
That's how I took it.
This one tiny character's name.
Gotcha.
I was like,
no. The guy who does all 5 audiobooks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yep.
So they think they can hit the 10,000. And he's not sure if that's a good or a bad thing, actually, because it's even scarier. I mean, it's just more of this stuff.
You don't know if you should be delighted or terrified. He also thinks he doesn't know if it's like
Maybe
a false boast. And he says like the bannerman who promises his lord 10,000 men, but shows up on the day of battle with 102.
Yeah, but he thinks this is like a real
That's
boast.
just stupid
Like,
to be
I
that
think
crazy.
he can actually get this done.
Yeah. And then
Like, if you
that's
say
what
you
he
have
gets
1,000, show up with 100, they should just shoot you on site.
Well, the
like,
thing
are
is,
you
he's
fucking
already
kidding me?
saying, well, Tyrion's looking at a decent amount, probably.
Yeah.
He's already like, yo, we got 7,000 of this. So,
But like 1/10 of what you're saying, like that would be fucking stupid. But
yeah. And
That's
Tyrion's like, I
beside
hope you're
the
taking
point.
care. Like, you're not like cutting any corners here in production. Like, we can't afford any mishaps.
Yeah, or
And
like
Helen's
broken
like,
ones that don't light are useless. So like, what's the point at that point? Yeah.
he's like, Helene basically gets a little prideful again. There will be no mishaps of substances trained by like
none of my
trained
guys.
acolytes in bare stone cells. Each jar is removed by an apprentice and carried down here. The instance is ready. Above each work cell is a room filled entirely with sand. A protective spell has been laid on the floors. Most powerful. Any fire in the cell below causes the floor to fall away, and the sand smothers the blaze at once. So they
How does
have
that
like
work? What do they got going on there? I was trying to think of like what would the ceiling be that fire would just drop. It would just be like, hey, something that's gonna.
That's what I was thinking.
Like
That
to
doesn't
keep
make sense.
enough sand on top of you.
I'm just thinking you basically need like think of like a 4x4 going vertical in like not the corners of each room, but like the centers of each wall. And then above them, you have like I-beams, some type of like wooden I-beam that goes from 4x4 to 4x4. And you have plywood on top of that with sand on top of that. And then all you need to do is knock out the 4x4s and all the plywood falls. I don't know if anybody got a picture.
How do you
mental
knock out
picture
the
of it.
4x4 though?
You have rushes on the floor so that as soon as something catches on fire, the rushes catch on fire and it's a stone cell. So the wood burns and sand
It's got
falls.
a 2-hour rating.
It might take a while. It's wildfire. Good burns quick.
Yeah.
I don't know, but like if there's no magic, it could be something simple like that.
Yeah,
Some,
I mean, this guy's like
thing.
making it seem like it's magical, and Tyrion's like, I bet it. Give me a look
I'd
at
like
these
to take a
fucking
look
ceilings,
at
and I'll
it.
figure it out.
Yeah, it's exactly that's what Tyrion's thinking to himself. Again, he has no respect for like any of these guys, like if they have any actual trickery or not.
Yeah, so then basically after they get their talks about the quantities, Tyrion's like, do you have extra clay pots? Let me get some of them because I want to train. Or he doesn't say this, but he's like, all right, you tell me to bring warm clothes, I'll be warm. You tell me to be careful, I'm trying to be careful. Get me some more clay pots.
The only thing you skipped over there is when he actually tells him to be careful. He's like, my father told his father.
Aerys.
So yeah, my father warned Ares and his father warned Jaehaerys before him. Like, be careful with these things. He's like, don't be worried about my pyromancers making any mishaps. Be worried about the people who have to use these puppies on the other end making the mishaps. He's like, be very, very careful.
They must have listened because otherwise I would have probably heard about the time the city burned down.
Exactly. Tyrion says that. Yeah. And he's like, so your advice is to be careful? And he's like, be very, very careful. So, yeah, that's when he gets into a close. He's basically like, do you have any extra jars? He's like, yeah. He's like, you tell me to be careful and be careful.
I mean, really, his quote, I think, is like, he's like, okay, I'll drop off the clay pots, and he starts to ask why, and he's like, dude, like, you tell me to dress warm, I dress warm. You're telling me to be careful on this shit, I'll be careful. Like, don't ask why. I told you to do this thing. Like, just fucking deliver the clay pots.
But, I mean, I picked it up immediately. I was like, he's going to use these as training pots. Like,
Yeah.
Jeff did it.
I didn't. I
called Jeff I FaceTimed Jeff while he was reading. He's like, what are the pots for? And I was like, come on, Jeff.
I mean, whatever.
Salamander, Jeff.
We make fun of Colin when he doesn't get stuff.
Silly
I'll call you out here.
I feel like that one is pretty blatant.
I mean,
Like, what else would you use empty ones for?
I was like, maybe it's to like scare people, like they knew what these pots were, and like, holy shit, like
fake
Tyrion's
ones.
putting all these fucking wildfire pots around the gate. Like, what the fuck's he doing?
That's not a bad play. You put all this like green paint in all these jars, and then you throw one real one, and you're like, "Yo, be careful. We got all these boys, but they're all fake because you don't want to fuck up."
So I didn't think it was a training. I thought it was more of like a threat. Like, oh shit, look at all this wildfire we have posted up at the gates.
Yeah,
but
gotcha.
That was my thought over training. And I mean, fuck, like I said, I read this already, and I fucking forgot. So
exactly. Yep. So basically, he's like, "Okay, I'm ready to go back." And on the way back, he's basically like, "Oh, we're so honored by your visit. We haven't been visited by a hand since Rossart, and he was a pyromancer, so like he doesn't really count because he was the hand and the pyromancer." And he's like, "But back in King Ares' day, like we were hot shit." And Jaime's like,
"Cool guys in town."
Yeah, Tyrion's like, "Oh, I heard stories from Jaime," and he knew that.
I wonder why you were the hot shit in town.
Tyrion knows because he used to roast his enemies, and he's like, he basically gets afraid that Joff. Assumes, and is afraid that Joff would be interested in something similar.
He's like, he already makes everybody fight to the death, like to get out of stuff. Like of course he's gonna.
I don't want him to burn people alive now.
Yeah. And he's like, the queen has even like said we could visit. Like, I'm thinking we should have a feast. And Tyrion's like, no feasting. He's like, no more feasting until the war's over.
And so he's saying like it's Joffrey's idea. Like, oh, the king doesn't feast while his people are starving.
I think in the last chapter I put in an editor's note that we were wrong about the Sansa timeline. And some of this, I don't know if it's exactly this. I think it's mentioned later on. This is like partially why, because like pretty much the feast that they're talking about, he says is like 3 days. They're talking about the feast. There's a riot 3 days ago. Basically the 3 days ago just lines up with the Sansa chapter because that's probably with the shit that was going on when we saw Joffrey riding to the wall, right? He says like he kills, I don't know if again this is what I'm talking about, but Joffrey killed 4 people.
Well, there was a flurry of arrows. They don't know. I mean,
yeah, Joffrey necessarily killed him, but
I think he just set him off. He didn't shoot them.
But I mean,
but he did order his crossbow.
We did talk about that last time, and I was like, "Do you really think he would shoot somebody?" And you were like, "Yeah." And then now here he is potentially.
Yeah, I knew.
No, I know you knew. That's what I'm saying.
He was practicing with the hares, or what were they calling them? Bunnies?
Yeah, the hares. Yep.
The wild hares from the north.
Folks in the north. So Tyrion doesn't have any objections to magic tricks, but he doesn't want Joff to be going too wild with it. And then we get a cool description of the guild hall. Jeff, you want to read that?
The guild hall of the alchemist was an imposing warren of black stone, but Halland led him through the twists and turns until they reached the gallery of the iron torches. A long echoing chamber where columns of green fire danced around black metal columns 20 feet tall. Ghostly flames shimmered off the polished black marble of the walls and floor and bathed the hall in an emerald radiance. Tyrion would have been more impressed if he hadn't known that the great iron torches had only been lit this morning in honor of his visit and would be extinguished the instant the doors closed behind him. Wildfire was too costly to squander.
What I don't understand about that is like how so it sounds like they extinguish them by sand, right?
It sounds like
it. Enough sand.
Well, and like he was
maybe
talking
they
about
just
how
stop feeding it.
Maybe no oxygen.
I don't really think
take
about
away
it.
The oxygen
like
a normal fire
like,
would
how do
go
you
away?
save that oil? And like,
yeah,
because it's like you can't put this out. Is pretty much what he said. Like
maybe it's like those things like a cat food bowl where it's like got a bunch of it in the tank and it like slowly feeds in as the cat eats more.
Well, I mean,
it's
if
like
you take away the
like
oxygen,
put a stopper
a bomb is what you say.
If you take away the oxygen, doesn't stop.
Yeah, that might be a
wildfire
bad idea with
bomb.
wildfire.
I think oxygen would do it.
Oxygen makes sense.
I don't know.
It was.
I'm just saying, how do they make a vacuum in the guild hall? Like this isn't like. You know what I'm saying?
Just fucking put a lid on it. What the fuck are you talking
observation. That's all. It's useless. It's not.
We can
get
keep
a jar.
I'm not adding to the story, but anyway.
We're good. So the one thing we did skip over is he brought a particular person with him, but he didn't dress warmly enough to go down to the actual guild hall.
Timid.
The burned men.
The burned men. So Tyrion thinks he brought.
The hordes are scared of him.
Partially because people are pissed off. Well, he does say
it's
they're
better to
serious.
see the guys that make all the fire than the fucking burn men.
That's like the poetic one that Tyrion thinks. But the other one that is Jeff's right. He's like, the small folk have not been happy lately, and the Burnmen are the scariest motherfuckers of all my clansmen. So that's
I think I'd be more afraid of the dudes with ears.
With ears around their necks, yeah.
They're
I mean, all
scary.
of them. You just definitely don't want the Moon Brothers. They fucking let Cersei in, so don't take them.
Yeah, fuck the Moon Brothers.
So they see Timett. Also, Bronn's there, right? This is where we hear about the Joffrey attack. Bronn's there, and Bronn has the news. Basically, you got two people looking for you: Sir Jacelyn Bywater, Mr. Ironhand.
He's sitting by the Black Gate.
He's by the Gate of the Gods.
Gate of the Gods, whatever.
And Cersei has summoned you. Or someone has summoned you.
We already talked about it. The part where they talk about the riot, and it says that Joffrey told him that he killed 4 of them, and he said, "Yeah, you guys, there's your food.
Eat your dad." Yeah. What a bitch.
Yeah, which Tyrion's like winning us still more friends. Like he's not helping our cause here.
We see that a little bit later with a town crier down the streets.
Yeah.
But you calling that a town crier?
No, he's like the
town crier.
No, he's like one of those crazy prophets.
He's a message man.
And if we're using Game of Thrones words, he's a begging brother, which is like a very, very low level priest, I guess. Yeah. I don't even think it's like a crazy, like the end.
Speaking the truth, though, Demon Monkey guys got control of the city.
All right, we're jumping ahead. We'll get there. Yeah. So he says, Jacelyn's looking for you, and someone summoned you to keep. Tyrion knows immediately who would summon him. It's Cersei.
What does my sweet sister want?
And Bronn says he doesn't know, but it was the cousin that delivered the message. Lancer Lannister, who has 4 hairs on his lip, but thinks he's a man. Lannister.
He's a sir now. He's a knight, and
that's who delivered the message to Bronn.
Yeah. I'm saying the other message.
That's what Tyrion says. He's like, yeah, he has 4 hairs, but also a knighthood. So Tyrion's thinking to himself, like, okay, Bywater wouldn't want me if it wasn't important, so I'm going to go there. And also, the angrier Cersei gets, the easier it'll be to beat her in an argument.
Bywater's the guy that replaced Varys, right? Or not Varys, Slint.
Iron Hand. Yeah.
Why he has a fake hand? Does he have a fucking?
Yeah, that's why he's Iron Hand.
Yeah, it made sense. I just forgot. I didn't know.
I think he talks about it here too.
Jeff kind of forgot. See, Jeff's like
I kind of forget the parts about people. If it was my job, but trust me, I wouldn't forget. But
so the cool thing that Tyrion says is he prefers angry and stupid to composed and cunning. Is why he's okay to let Cersei wait, because she's gonna get angry the longer he waits. But yeah, so he eventually, not wrong. We see her. It's a
good strategy. It's a good strat too.
So he goes down to the Gate of the Gods, meets Sir Jacelyn. He's like, Sir Cleos is here with some letters from Rod Stark. Theon's like, ooh, awesome. Today's getting better and better and better. So he goes in, meets Cleos. He's in a room in the guardhouse. Cleos is like, oh, you're a most welcome sight. And Tyrion's like, wow, I don't hear that a lot.
Cool.
Cool. He starts talking. Tyrion's like looking at this map.
He definitely wouldn't say that if it was normal circumstances.
If he wasn't basically a prisoner right now. Yeah, probably. Yeah, we know how everybody else treats Tyrion. And Cleo's like, is Cersei with you? And he's like, she's busy, but just give me the letter. And like, Jacelyn, leave us alone. So Cleo's like, I'm supposed to bring it to Cersei, and Tyrion's like, don't worry, I will.
All in good time.
He's like, just chill. You don't look good. Rest a minute. Let me.
This is where we find out they've been fucking under attack on the way down.
Exactly. So Kyle predicted this, and I didn't remember this part really too much at all. But Kyle predicted that basically this, like, maybe this wasn't even going to get to King's Landing, and that like Tywin was going to find it or something like that. I think. I didn't remember they actually got attacked at all. I was like, no, Peacemaker stop stuff, just because all I remembered was that they got there.
Are they riding? Do not. So are they riding under Stark flags and a peace flag? Or?
I'm not sure. They have to be, right?
There's no way.
But like, there's so many people that are just like suffering right now on this trip down that they're fucking viable. I mean, they probably got food and
exactly what they got attacked,
resources and whatever they got.
They were attacked by wolves and male. What the fuck was I saying? They were attacked by wolves and male who knew what side they started on. So like, they don't even say if they were Starks or Lannisters. At this point, they're just like outlaws. There's just like outlaws out there now too, seemingly, right? Maybe it was the Mountain or Armory Lorch, but I feel like they would have said that, or like, like Arya knew it was Lannisters' men when they were attacked by the Lannisters. These guys say they don't know whose side they were on, which makes me seem more outlaw-y. Yeah,
roving gangs.
Yeah.
All right. So they talk about that a little bit, but then they really get to the terms, right?
Boy does not want much. Half the realm, release of our captives, hostages, his father's sword, and, of course, his sisters.
Yeah. There's also one thing we jumped over real quick. I'm only going to bring it up because I think it's a callback to the last chapter when like Arya and Gendry were talking about like hostage, like the difference between like small folk.
Oh yeah, he does say that.
They're like, we should yield, and Gendry's like, if you yield, they get killed.
While the Highborn were held for ransom.
Exactly.
Remind me to thank the gods I was born a Lannister.
Yeah, and Gendry said something very similar when they're like, "We're gonna yield," and they're like, "They just kill
Somebody
small
should have
folk.
told
Only
Mommy
knights
that.
get ransomed." Yeah, exactly. So that's all I wanted to bring that up.
No, that was you're right.
And basically the stuff that they list off. I looked back at that cat chapter. It's pretty much the exact same thing. I think they also say Ned's body is the only thing they miss.
Ned's bones. We get into Cleo's just talking like
What's
the
going
boy
on with
just
Rob?
sitting at River Run, just kind of waiting.
He's afraid to fight Tywin in battle. Meet Tywin. In
That's
battle.
what he thinks. He thinks that they're afraid
This is
to
what
fight in
Cleos
the
is
open
saying,
field,
yeah.
which makes sense. I mean, their numbers are weaker.
He's
They're
sending
getting
people
weaker
off.
every day. Which is something weird. I was wondering, like, how does Cleos know some of this stuff? Like, how does he know lords are going back to defend
Didn't he
them?
do that?
I guess, like...
Rob sent people off to go home.
Yeah, but, like, you'd think Cleos was, like, in a dungeon cell.
Yeah,
beneath
true. I don't know.
River Run.
I don't
But I
remember.
guess, like, once he's
there's
out on the road...
rumors. I mean,
he's out on the road.
Once he's on the road, he's
Yeah.
with a group of men. They're probably like, oh, man, I
talking
can't believe
stuff.
these river lords are fucking leaving us to go defend their lands. And
Yeah,
it's
you're
like,
probably right.
oh, shit, okay.
Yeah, so Tyrion's wondering, like, if this is, like... Is he basically just playing exactly into Tywin's hand? Is this what Tywin wanted? Like, Rob just get weaker and weaker? He basically rolls up the map, says the terms will never do. He's like, will you at least consent to trade? Cleos is asking if they will at least consent to trade Arya and Sansa for Tion Frey and Willem Lannister. And Tyrion knows it's because Tion is Cleos' brother.
That's the easiest no I've ever heard in my life.
Well, he tells him gently. He's not harsh about it.
No,
it's an
he's pretty
obvious
much like,
no. He's like, come on.
no.
He's like, no.
Like,
not a
your
shot.
fucking brother and their cousin? Like, get the fuck out of
He's
here.
like, who the fuck are you? What's your name again?
Jamie
Yeah.
is captured. Is what I
For
would-
Sansa Stark, she gets POV chapters, bro. Like, not a two POV chapters for two guys that have
Who
like
the
two
fuck's your
not a
brother?
shot. Yeah. So he's like, we'll get some counter offers, and he's like, I'll talk to the small council. I'll talk to Cersei. We'll send you back with new terms. And obviously, Cleos wasn't super happy about that.
Gotta
I
go back
gotta go through that
shit.
fucking war
Yeah.
zone again? Are you kidding me?
And he's like, dude, I don't know if another terms are a good idea. Like, Rob didn't even want to make these terms. It was pretty much Kat's idea. And Tyrion's like, Kat just wants the girls back. And he's like,
Yeah, fuck off, Cleos. I've had enough with you. I'm done with you.
and he's basically like, yeah, make sure he's got food, good place to stay. And they'll come get him when they know more.
And we go visit our boy Jacelyn back up on the wall.
Yep, on the guard
On
or
the
whatever. Yep.
They're watching the boys train down there.
Bunch of new recruits. It's like the
Bunch of
wall.
people.
Bunch.
All these
You know?
cats that came from the Riverland.
Everyone's
or
looking
from-
for a free meal.
They're just looking
And
for a full belly.
and maybe a
And
little
cot.
whoring.
Yeah, maybe caught. So
And
they get a
some
bunch of new
Russians to
recruits.
sleep on.
But Tyrion does not think these guys would actually hold up very well if it actually came to blows. Like,
Yeah, they're fighting for food. They're not fighting for the city or the
yeah,
Lannisters.
exactly. Yeah.
First, he's like, make sure Cleos is set up and has no fucking clue how shitty things are inside the walls here.
Well, and
not
and
arrest
the
Rob.
people that brought him stay the fuck outside
Yeah.
the gate, so they really don't know what the fuck's going on.
Basically, anybody who might be going back to Riverrun,
Yeah.
they cannot know what's going on inside these
Yeah,
walls.
so keep that under wraps, pretty much.
Yeah. And then I think we get into
The clay
The
pot
pots glow.
situation.
so what's our plan there?
The initial one is filling up the pots with green paint, and if anyone spills it, get them the fuck out of there. And then if they do that well, then throwing them and all that, then start filling them up with lamp oil and having them train throwing it like that, and then maybe they'll be good enough to actually handle
and
wildfire.
igniting it right now.
And igniting
Yeah,
it.
light
Sorry.
the jars, yeah. So I have a question about, it says loading and firing.
I don't know what the fuck a Spitfire is. I thought that was like the big crossbow
Like
thing,
a
right?
catapult? Is that like just like a fucking?
That sounds
what's the thing Dennis the Menace had?
slingshot.
So they just got
I
some
guess
slingshot
what
shit?
I was thinking is a Scorpion. I don't know
Yeah.
what a Spitfire is.
Ballista kind of.
I'm saying it's a fucking
Google
slingshot.
it.
Big slingshot.
I'll post a picture of a Spitfire in the Discord.
Yeah, check it out. Let us know what you were thinking. Nah,
that makes
it's
perfect
a fucking
sense.
slingshot.
Dude, it's an airplane.
Yeah, it's a British airplane. World War
Spitfire siege
Two?
weapon. Now I'm getting freaking. I'm literally getting fucking assault rifles from the video game Rainbow Six Siege. What the fuck, dude? It's a catapult.
It's a
fucking
catapult.
Tell me a
Okay.
picture of one in the fucking.
I was just wondering if these were all like grenades or apparently they're like siege weapons, or not siege weapons, but they can.
Boom! Just
Launch
a big
it.
arm.
To your point,
it's a
though,
big
there's, like,
fucking arm.
Just like throwing this and having it explode, light it. To Kyle's point earlier.
Really
No,
light
you
the
have
pots.
it lit.
Oh, light the
You
pots
light,
with
you
fire.
light the
Gotcha.
like a
Little
Molotov
fuse.
cocktail, like a Molotov cocktail. Come on, grow up, would
Gotcha.
Yeah, figure it out, Mouse.
Yeah. So Jackson's basically like, okay, I get where this is going now, but I don't like wildfire. He's like, I don't like that alchemist piss. And Tyrion's like, neither do I, but when life gives you lemons, you know?
Drink vodka.
You made Greek fire lemonade.
He goes back to basically he's like, all right, time to go back to Cersei. Gets in the litter. He's like, Cersei's not gonna be happy that I got this letter. He's thinking like Robb is kind of like giving us a good chance here. We're basically just gonna send back terms that I know he won't accept, but I know will like keep him interested.
We're just wasting time.
We're just gonna bounce Cleo's Frey back and forth and waste time.
He might not make it back. To Cal's point, he might not make it back.
They'll send somebody else. There's always another Cleo's Frey. You know what I'm saying?
Who's training up more Lannisters right now?
Stafford Lannister, is training up more Lannisters over at the Rock.
Gives him chance to build an army. Gives this army chance to build. Gives them time to make wildfire. Like he's like buying time essentially.
Exactly, just stalling. Yep.
Now if only Renly and Stannis would hold off. He's like, I know they're not here yet, and Renly's slow, but he's coming. He's getting bigger.
And Stannis is like, I go to bed every night afraid that I'm going to get woken up in the middle of the night, someone telling me he's basically at the doorstep.
Renly's too busy eating at each hall on the way.
Yep. But they're coming and growing bigger along the way. And then this when they see this begging brother. So he's shouting about red corruption. He points to the red comet, so this thing's still hanging around. We haven't talked about it too much.
I was reading that, dude. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? It's still in the fucking sky. And then
I thought when we were calling it like a little red fuzzy thing that maybe it was just sunsetting.
The wound is like,
and I was like, it's fucking gone. But then they said the comment, I was like, motherfucking bitch.
Yep.
It's going on like 7 months of this thing not moving.
Glow, you need a wake up call. Time to read this town crier's spiel.
Corruption! There is the warning. Behold the father's scourge. We have become swollen, bloated, foul. Brother couples with sister in the bed of kings, and the fruit of their incest capers in his palace to the piping of a twisted little monkey demon. Highborn ladies fornicate with fools and give birth to monsters. Even the High Septon has forgotten the gods. He bathes in scented waters and grows fat on lark and lamprey while his people starve. Pride becomes before prayer. Maggots rule our castles, and gold is all. But no more! The rotten summer is at an end, and the whoremonger king is brought low. When the boar did open him, a great stench rose to heaven, and 1,000 snakes slid forth from his belly, hissing and biting. There comes the harbinger. Cleanse yourselves, the gods cry out, lest ye be cleansed. Bathe in the wine of righteousness, or you shall be bathed in fire. Fire!
Fire!
Nice. So one thing I'll mention is like, they basically have two things have come out, right? So both, we hear the Stannis, basically everything in Stannis' letter. The whole incest thing is now among the people.
Yep.
Whether this is because Stannis sent letters everywhere.
Twisted little monkey demon. Is that Tyrion?
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
And Tyrion thinks about it later, kind of. As if
I thought so, but I just wanted to. And then Highborn Ladies is Stannis' wife, right?
Yeah, couples with fornicates with fools. So patch face, exactly. So
whose rumor was that?
So that's the thing that Littlefinger and the council had concocted and started spreading through brothels and stuff. So again, that's in King's Landing, so like maybe it hasn't gotten too far, right? They're going to spread it basically via word of mouth mostly. But at least it's among the small people already. So,
but this isn't working that great because this guy believes both of them instead of one and not the other.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess that's kind of what the council was going for. I don't know.
I thought they wanted them to believe theirs over the other one. You know,
I think they were more like, they'll forget about one, and just whichever one's more outrageous will stay around longer.
Yeah. That was definitely like, I forget what you can't. Yeah, it's already out there. Like denying it or putting out the rebuttal is like, oh well, what the fuck are they doing that for? They just
cutting out someone's tongue just says you are afraid of what he might say. Doesn't say that he's wrong. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and he kind of hits it here with the you shall be bathed in fire. Little does he know that I think something's about to happen where a lot of people.
There's a bunch of wildfire right below him.
Yeah.
So, but Tyrion does note that there's just as many people that seem to be like on this guy's side as against him. He says that the shouts of fire were matched with shouts of some other word that I looked up and means mockery. I thought it meant like a good thing at first, but it doesn't. It means mockery.
Derision means like the opposite. Yeah, like down.
And Kyle's here for pronunciation because I don't know how to say it either. So nice. But yes, bad thing. So basically, like this is it's a mixed crowd. Tyrion thinks he basically doesn't like being called a twisted little monkey demon, but the guy has a point about the High Septon. Even Moon Boy made a joke a few days ago, a pious man who worships the seven so fervently that he eats a meal for each of them whenever he sits at table. So dude's fat as fuck, or getting fat as fuck. So basically Tyrion gets back to his room. He's like pretty happy with himself. He's like, just give me a little time and I can make shit work.
So he touches on the chain again, which...
Okay, barely mentioned it. He's like, just give me time for this chain.
I think what he's trying to do, I think I figured it out, is he's trying to make a maester's chain for himself, but it's going to be the biggest one yet. And so everybody's going to think he's fucking smart as shit. Yeah.
I like it.
He's going to be like, XXL chain on his neck here, like... No, I mean, we gotta
look up what steel is for. Steel is the maester link for. It's like the maester link of lovemaking. So Tyrion's just like a sex god, is what he's basically trying to tell everybody.
Is that what it is?
I don't know.
Can't be.
I'm a little surprised that was the only mention of the chain. Like it was just like
it was real quick too. Yeah,
and the chain.
Once the chain is done. ...
Yeah.
Yep.
That's all he says about it. So
leaving us on the cliff.
Yeah, I still don't have an answer for that. I still stand by the I guess the Stannis and the trying to put it across the harbor kind of thing. Otherwise, gotcha. I don't know why else you're making this giant chain. That's the only thing that makes sense.
A big ass fucking chain.
Yep.
Yeah. What happens after that? Are we with Cersei?
I think he just opens the door on Cersei, right?
She's in there. Yep. Why are you in my fucking tower? She's like, your tower.
This is my son's castle.
This is Joffrey's and he's my son.
It's like when you tell your mom, like, Mom, why are you in my room? Like, your room? This is my fucking house. You know what I mean?
Pay
like,
rent? Do you pay the mortgage?
This is my son's royal castle, is what Cersei tells him.
And in my head, I was just like, yeah, it's not yours either, Cersei. Get the fuck out, bitch.
She's the queen regent, Glow. You watch your mouth.
He's the hand. He's got more power.
And then he thinks, man, fuck those moon brothers.
This guy Cron's not going to be too happy.
Yeah.
So this is the first time we've heard about Cron. The other Moon Brother leader was Ulf, son of Ulf, but he died in the Battle of the Green Fork. So we had not heard of like who took over, I guess, as the Moon Brother guy. And it's this guy Cron. He's like, yeah, he's not going to be happy. He's like, they had guard today. So Cersei is very obviously upset.
So I mean, I guess the Moon Brothers shouldn't give a shit that she's the queen, but like, can you really expect anybody to keep her out?
Like, if Tyrion comes back to the thing is, like, what is Cersei threatening with? Like, if Cersei's got, like, 30 guys with her, right? Like, does Tyrion expect to come back to the Tower of the Hand and just have, like, an absolute battle have taken place? You know what I mean? Like,
his sister's, like, best men.
Like, at what point, like, at some point, this guy's got to be like, okay, yeah, fine, just go and chill in his room. I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, we're not going to have, like, a huge battle.
I'm not going to fight the queen, the most, like,
I was thinking that
connected person in the city.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. So yeah, she's clearly pissed, and Tyrion's basically like, "What's the problem?" And she's like, "You gave away Marcella, my only daughter. Did you truly imagine that I would allow you to sell her like a bag of oats?" And Tyrion thinks to himself, "Marcella," he thought, "well, that egg has hatched. Let's see what color the chick is." All right, Kyle. Let's see.
Kyle, any idea what that means?
I don't. So, like, I mean, it obviously ties back to, I forget who he told the Marcella to. Is that Littlefinger?
He told Littlefinger he was giving Marcella to
the Eyrie.
The Eyrie. So that egg is hatched means like, well, that plan is kind of in motion.
Yep.
Let's see what color the chick is. Is like, is it gonna go well or bad? Like, is she gonna buy it or not? Right?
Not quite, but.
So I'm just gonna give you a reminder. He wrote a letter to Dorne saying, "Hey."
Well, obviously that's what they're talking about right now.
And so that's the only Pycelle only had that information.
Well,
yeah. Well, you
just did what Nelson didn't want to do.
I know, but
that was what the fuck are you doing, Glow?
I don't know what you're saying still, though. Like, that chick is
good.
All right, so, move on. Last Tyrion chapter. I'm not going to skip over it. Last Tyrion chapter, he had 3 conversations with 3 different people.
Yeah, so
and they were all different,
Pycelle, right? And he sent a letter to Dorne about.
We don't know
what.
Yeah, that's all we knew in the last chapter.
I thought it was they were sending Tommen somewhere. Where's he?
So Varys thinks that at the end.
Okay, yeah.
Because Varys heard the conversation with Littlefinger and says you can't send Marcella to both places. But clearly, the letter to Dorne was for Marcella. Like that's like, or at least that's what Cersei thinks. So like, if that's what Pycelle probably read, right? So he
we got the letter from Dorne. We got Littlefinger sending Marcella to the Eyrie, and then Varys thinking that he's sending Marcella to the Eyrie and Tommen to Dorne. So put those eggs out there, see which one hatches.
Who can he trust?
What
Or
information does Cersei
trust?
come back with?
Yeah.
Right. And I know where it came from. Yeah. And I think he even spells it out a little bit more towards the very end. Like the last line of the chapter might like.
I'm still confused
even
about
be
all the plans from the other one because they were very confusing
it's okay.
plans.
Yeah,
No,
that
and
makes
I'm going
sense.
to try and keep it that way, I guess, at this point because I think it's probably best because I don't think I would have figured out any of what you just said. So I'm going to try and continue.
So
on.
there's let's just keep going.
Which I have. Don't worry. We're good.
So now they start getting into like what Cersei. So Tyrion doesn't like let on about any of this like trickery he was playing on. He's just 100% talking about this conversation of like what Cersei knows about like with this letter that's been sent to Dorne. So he's basically saying like Marcella is not just a bag of oats. She's a princess. This is basically what she was made for. Or did you plan to marry her to Tommen?
Which is a sick burn.
Bam, slap.
That
Tyrion has a few.
Was a good one.
He has a few. So she smacks him, knocks the wine out of his hands, and she's like, "Whether your brother or not, like I should have your fucking tongue out for that." He's like, "I'm in charge here, not you."
The cool thing about Tyrion was that he knew how to spin this in a way that she would be like kind of like okay with it too. Like, oh well, what happens if the city gets taken over? Marcella's head's going to be right up next to yours, and she starts getting this, you know, crying, hysterical Cersei.
Better if she's not here.
I'm like 90% on that Cersei's actually like upset here, but like, couldn't Cersei be like trying to play like counterplay Tyrion? Like as soon as Cersei starts crying, again we're jumping ahead a little bit, but as soon as Cersei starts crying, Tyrion like totally becomes way less aggressive and like is basically just like giving like his honest thoughts and information on like the war efforts and everything like that. So like Cersei, like if Cersei was playing this crying thing like intentionally, it kind of works, right? Either way, and I'm not saying.
But what does
she
find out? What does she find out from crying?
We'll get there, right?
She's about to cry, right?
No, we're not. So
she finds out stuff basically that stuff he was going to tell her anyway, though.
But not if she's slapping him in the face and stuff. How do you go from slapping someone in the face to getting all that information?
Let's just figure out. I don't even know which information she's getting. Let's just get there because I don't know what you mean by information. I feel like she doesn't learn dick, but
she just learns what Tyrion knows.
Which
she learns what like Tyrion's like thinking is going to happen. Kind of, I guess. It's all implications.
She even gets mad when we're jumping ahead. Let's just go through it. Yeah. So basically, she's talking about the Dorne thing. And so she's like,
she's afraid she's going to be like fucking raped and in prison there because the Martells hate us.
Exactly. We talked about this last time because Varys talked about a little bit the whole this guy's sister was Rhaegar's wife and the whole mountain came in and raped her and killed the children and stuff. So,
but he's like, listen, she's going to be safe. The offer is too good to refuse or to do anything stupid with. And I'm going to send a Kingsguard with her.
Well, no, even before that, he says like, yeah, they hate us, but they've only hated us for a generation. They've hated the Storm Lords and like the Reach Lords, like Highgarden, longer than that, right?
And he has more honor than to kill a 9-year-old.
Yeah, so he gets into that, and he's getting more into specifics of the marriage. So Marcella's 9. There's a son, Prince Trystane Martell. Jesus Christ, Prince Trystane Martell, and he's 11. And Tyrion basically has proposed that they're going to wed when she turns 14. But until then, he's just going to be an honored guest. And Cersei's like, a fucking hostage. And he's like, an honored guest. And I bet you she's going to be treated better than Sansa was. So don't be a bitch. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're doing the same fucking thing. Yeah.
And then goes into what Jeff's saying. Like, she's going to have Ares Oakheart. Like, I'm going to send Ares Oakheart. He's a god. Like, come on. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
What's one Kingsguard going to do when they decide to kill her?
And then, to what Jeff said earlier, right? Like, they can't kill her or else we're not going to keep our side of the promise.
Yeah. And he's also getting a seat at the council table. He's getting his sister's murderer. And
too much.
One other thing, I forget.
Some castles on the marches.
It's too much.
Castle what?
Castles on the marches. The Dornish marches. Just like an area on the map. Not a big deal.
Too much.
It's too much.
It's too much.
And then he says, "What would you have offered him? The hole between your legs?" Like he's like, well, what else? Like, what do you want me to fucking do? We got to buy him off. Like that's the whole point of this. Buy him off.
That's the next burn, right? When he says that, doesn't she slap him again or no?
Yeah,
she slaps him. Yeah,
his head snapped around with a crack. He knew it was coming.
That's when he says, "If you slap me one more time, I swear to the 7 gods,
that'll be it."
And she's like, don't threaten me. You know who else fucking threatened me? A little boy named Eddard Stark. And he had a little piece of paper just like you do. And guess what that did for him? Shit all right? So shut the fuck up. And Tyrion actually shuts the fuck up. He just goes and pours some more wine, right?
But he's like, I got an army, a little bit of an army behind me here.
Eddard Stark did not have the city watch, nor my clansmen, nor the sellswords that Bronn hired. Ned thought he fucking did have the city watch.
And Tyrion thinks that.
And he's like, yeah.
Tyrion thinks like,
and he's like, oh shit, wait, does Varys actually?
Yeah, he said Lord Stark probably had delusions too. So like, he's like,
the good thing that Tyrion's doing though is he isn't putting all his eggs in one basket.
Yeah, he's got a bunch of armies or a bunch of men.
If one person flips on him, he's got some more. And I was also thinking like, if Bronn is like actually like really hardcore recruiting these people, and they're like as good as Bronn, who we saw like beat Ser Vardis Egan, who's like a good ass knight in single combat. Are these guys going to be like Tyrion's Green Berets? Like they're just like the super elite force of like all Tyrion's boys. You know what I mean? Like they could be some badass fighters if Bronn's like hardcore recruiting out there for like the scummiest,
actually
baddest, like hardcore fighters out there. It'd be sick. Like who gives a shit what they're if it's a knight or not? You know what I mean? Like then you get the cats like the Hound, who just like don't give a fuck if they're a knight, and not even like give a fuck, but just like have the ability but don't have the birth or whatever. Right? Yeah. You can get some badass cats. But yeah. So Tyrion gets some more wine. So another thing, kind of like we were saying earlier, when we're comparing it to gasoline, there's I just like when there's the Game of Thrones versions of like idioms from the real world, and there's like the idiom like don't throw gas on a fire, or I don't even know if it's an idiom, and then Tyrion says don't throw wildfire on a brazier. Just like I don't know if it's the same thing or not.
Yeah, don't fan her flames. Don't make her matter. Like, I'm just gonna shut up.
That's the idiom that Nelson was looking for.
Yeah, I mean, no, gas on a fire works too. That's the same.
Yeah.
But, no, I mean it's cooking with gas. So
then this is where we have the flip, right? So Tyrion's like, how safe will Marcella really be in King's Landing if we lose to Stannis or Renly? She'll be right up there with you, head on a spike. This is where she starts to cry. And it's a funny quote. It's a funny quote. Tyrion Lannister could not have been more astonished if Aegon the Conqueror himself had burst into the room, riding on a dragon and juggling lemon pies. He had not seen his sister weep since they were children together at Castle Rock. Which again makes me definitely think this is like 100% an actual, like she's kind of breaking down under like the actual realization that like shit's happening. You know what I mean? Like they're actually in some danger.
I thought it was authentic.
Oh wait, I thought you thought it was an acting thing.
No, I 100% think it's authentic. Too. I just like in the back of my head, I'm like, could it be like? Is there a chance that she's like playing him a little bit here? And I don't know.
Well, let's see. Because I thought it was genuine, but now that you mention it, maybe it is.
Just because I know like George likes to play a lot on like the sexist shit, and like he already kind of touched on like, what are you going to offer the hole in your legs, which is kind of like a big theme in these books. Like that's like when women are like oppressed like that, that's one of the things they always have power of men is. And like the other thing, just like in my head, it's like, I never, if the girl, even a guy starts crying, but guys don't really cry like that much. If somebody starts crying in front of me, I never know what the fuck to do. Like, you know what I mean? Like
exactly. He didn't know what to do either. He's like,
depends on who it is. Like if it's just someone you're really close with, like maybe, but like a lot of times, like it's when girls cry and trying to get like,
I have a video of you crying on my phone. I
have a video of you crying. You know what I mean? It's just like girls cry to like try and get an A on a test or to get out of a ticket. It's like a thing that like I'm not trying to be sexist.
I've seen guys cry. You're being sexist.
You are 100%.
Am I?
You're not trying to be. You are being.
Okay, I'm sexist. Okay, cut it out. I don't know. Maybe it won't get cut out.
That's your.
Tell me if I'm sexist. No one knows what I'm saying. Like you can.
I do know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. People have cried to like make them people feel bad and like get their way. Like
sure, whether it's a sex thing or not. Yeah, fuck it. And again, I don't think it's an act. I just like in the back of my head today when I was reading it, I was like, things completely switched in this conversation. Not like Tyrion was like winning and she was losing beforehand, but it just like it gets way calmer after this happens.
I just don't understand like if it was an act, what she really wins out of
exactly.
Acting.
Yeah, it's a good point too. Well, good point too.
Well, no, to Nelson's point, and again, like I said, I read it as authentic, but it does. This is probably the most out of his element Tyrion has been yet. Except for
he feels like he's kind of in charge of everything, right? Yeah.
With
on the battlefield.
Yeah. Well, I meant there was somebody else that kind of matched wits with him. I forget who it was now.
Littlefinger and Varys, both of them. I think he's mentioned like, okay, I got to keep an eye on you.
He wasn't ready for her to break out.
This seemed like the weirdest moment for him yet. Like he's like, I don't know what to fucking do here. Like he's never dumbfounded. He always seems to know exactly what to do next or what to say next. Here he doesn't. So it did work it happened at the very least.
And again, I don't think any of us think that. I just weird thing to think about the possibility. So Tyrion goes over, tries to put a hand on her because he's like, "What the fuck do I do?" She's like, "Get away from me!" and like pulls away. And this is a weird line. He says that hurt. He's like, "It shouldn't hurt him." Like just like her, like, "Don't touch me." but he said that hurt worse than any slap. But it's just like, it shows you that, like, even
he
though
still cares,
he always talks about like, fuck her, like she's like basically my enemy.
He just wants to be a part of the family.
Yeah, the family thing.
Family. Dom Toretto.
Family Dom Toretto. She's like, don't look at me, and he turns around, like actually doesn't look at her, I guess, for the rest of this conversation.
Like I said, that was another thing that seems so out of place for
exactly.
him. Like,
yeah. He immediately follows her command, turn around, and he does. It's not that command.
Oh, whatever.
You know what I mean?
Fuck it. Let her cry.
And again, I don't think this. It's just weird thought. Like, the conversation shifts. I'm trying to point that out.
Well, she's like, he's like, don't worry. Like, I'll make sure nothing happens to her. And she's like,
yeah,
liar. Like, bullshit. Like, where's fucking Jamie at? And he's like, in River Run, I guess.
She's like, if I was a man, I wouldn't have allowed any of this to happen. It's like, Jamie's dumb for getting caught, and like, what the hell's like dad, like father doing? He's abandoning us. Like, we need help right now.
Would she still bang Jamie if she was a man?
Probably.
Sure. Would Jamie bang her if she was a man is probably a tougher question. Probably.
Anyway, what's dad doing? Well, he's fucking making war for you. Like, he's doing the dirty work. Like, shut up. She said, but he's just chilling at Harrenhal.
He's hiding.
Yeah.
Looks like he's hiding.
He's curious way of fighting.
There's hiding and there's hiding.
Yeah,
like
there's waiting and there's waiting.
Sitting and sitting. Yeah, they're each just sitting there looking at each other, waiting for one to move. Tyrion gets this lion analogy, like a lion looking for a fawn. The fawn knows that no matter which way it goes, the lion's going to prance on it. And Cersei's like, are we sure father's the lion? And Tyrion's like, says it on our banners.
Sarcastically.
Yeah. I thought when he was originally saying this like metaphor or whatever, I thought he was going to go lion wolf, but when he goes fawn, like plays into that a little bit more. And he's like,
it reminds me of the Christopher Walken quote from that movie.
That's super vague.
It's like, a lion sits under a tree in the Sahara under the shade, and the hyena comes up and it fucking hits at his, scratches at his ass or whatever, and the lion just lays there, and then the hyena comes up and does it again, fucking around, and then like another hyena comes up, and then he fucking like pounces on it, and he's like, sometimes a lion just needs to put the hyena in its place. But
I don't know.
Christopher Walken does it. It's in like I think it's in a pool.
I liked it, but I don't know what it is.
It's a really good quote.
The Walken.
Well, I don't know how to do
that. Was bad. I don't know how to do it.
That was good. Yeah, Kyle.
That was bad.
So Cersei says if Tywin and Jamie were in opposite places, Jamie would not be sitting there. He would be attacking River Run no matter what. And Tyrion's like, yeah, you're probably right. He would just be attacking, like, win, lose, or draw, like, no matter what. He doesn't give a fuck. That's what he does. Jamie's bold. And he's like, not everyone can be as bold as Jamie. But there are other ways to win a war. Yeah. And he says there are other ways to win a war. We'll post the Christopher Walken quote, a YouTube link in the Discord, so you guys can go check it out.
Harrenhal is strong, is what he says. Like, that's a great place for him to be hanging out and building an army, or biding his time, rather. And
it's in a great spot.
She's like, but King's Landing is not. And so, like, while he's out there doing this gaming shit, like, we still have some threats right here. Like, that we don't have time, is what she's saying. Like,
sure, that comes and attacks.
Yeah, that one can go on as long as it needs to, but like, here we do have a pressing matter.
And Tyrion says that the castle won't fall in a day. So like, and again, this is where Tyrion is kind of speculating on what Tywin's thinking. But like, castle won't fall in a day. So if we get attacked by Stannis or Renly, theoretically we hold off for a few days, and Tywin comes and saves us. And if Robb Stark can't even march on us because he doesn't have enough men, like, we would just win that fight unless he got back with Roose Bolton, but he can't get back with Roose Bolton unless they take Harrenhal, and they don't have enough men to take Harrenhal, even with both the armies. So Robb's not a threat, and Tywin's close enough to save us from the other two. It's kind of what Tyrion says, like, is the plan right now. And then as long as we can stall Robb, we can take care of Robb completely, and then I guess Tywin is free to do whatever he wants with the army at that point.
And this is what I'm saying, like, if you're like, well, she was like, how did you know this, right? And he's like, I looked at the fucking map.
Yeah.
Like, that's why, like, if it was a crying act, like, Tyrion makes it seem like it's pretty fucking common sense here. Like,
yeah,
they're split, we're chilling here, we'll be fine. You know, it's like
I don't feel like
open your fucking
confidential.
eyes, Cersei. Yeah.
And part of the reason I agree and I don't think it's an act is because like even Tyrion at the end of this thinks like I will have like because like I'm gonna get the Dornish marriage. Like Tyrion thinks he won this conversation. Like he didn't think that like Cersei cried and like got him to recant on something, right? Like he still.
And like I said, I don't think he gave
lose.
her any like confidential information or
exactly,
like, stuff that like he just kind of explained what was happening.
Yeah, he spelled it out for her when she probably could have figured it out herself.
And then,
sweet sister,
she said, like, why would I believe any of this shit? Like, you're an idiot. Like, why would you think that we have a chance of winning this? And he's like, well, if we weren't winning, why would we be getting asked for peace? Like, yeah. And pulls out the letter.
What? She's pissed about it, just like he assumed she would be.
You should have brought it to me.
Why are you getting this instead
She's
of me?
back to Cersei in a heartbeat.
What is a hand for if not to hand you things?
It was a great line. I like that one.
So then, he basically thinks like a slap in the face is worth the Dornish marriage. I know I'll have that. And the knowledge of an informer. That was the plum in the pudding.
I want some plum in pudding.
So do we know the knowledge of the informer, Kyle?
Well, now I do, yeah. I wouldn't have, unfortunately. Not unfortunately, but like I said, I still felt stupid. So
weird, interesting thing now that you got it is the plum in the pudding. What were Parcell and Tyrion eating at breakfast? They weren't eating pudding, but they were eating plum and porridge and plums.
Oh yeah,
like for breakfast. Porridge. They weren't eating plums.
Yes, they were. Go read the chapter. Come on, Glow. Do you think I didn't go look at this? Come on, get the fuck out of here. You're gonna fucking boo people, and I'm fucking the one over here taking it 3 hours and fucking knows I got my fucking shit wrong.
They did not eat plums. He was eating shit. He didn't like anything.
The fuck out of here, Glow.
Asshole.
No, what was it that he wanted sugar on? It wasn't plums.
The porridge, maybe?
No, the porridge needed honey.
Go read the book, dude. Just flip back a few pages and read it. It says plums.
Because he didn't like anything he was eating, and he was still eating it all. And plums are delicious.
Boiled eggs.
That's what needed
porridge
salt.
and plums. Porridge with plums, I think. And then he
stewed
says this
plums,
is the plum.
Yeah. Boiled eggs, stewed plums, and porridge. Well, Pycelle served the pontifications.
This is not the shit to challenge me on.
Fuck.
So just the other week, Nelson put up the same fight, and he was wrong, guys. So continue to put up these fights. Continue to challenge his notes.
I did reread that one today because when I read that last line, I was like, wait a minute. He's like talking about
you forgot about the wildfire mentioned in the first chapter.
This is definitely a call. I thought it was definitely a callback to the Pycelle thing because he says it's the plum in the pudding. They literally 3 chapters ago were eating plums and pudding together. And
they didn't eat pudding, dude. Figure it out.
Porridge and pudding is basically the same thing.
No, it's not.
Yeah, grow up, Glow.
I don't know what porridge is. I feel like it's more of an oatmeal type of thing.
I kind of agree, but I could see oatmeal pudding being similar.
All right, so I don't think
you take the oats out of oatmeal. It's basically pudding. The slop that's left over, the meal.
What?
Oatmeal
is just oats and water.
All right, Kyle, what'd you think?
I was trying.
Kyle,
Jeff.
what goes next on with this fucking
So
bullshit?
I still, like I said, I still feel stupid after this one, unfortunately. And like the chain thing I already went through. Like this, I don't know what him knowing that Pycelle like is an informer does for him, other than like that means that Littlefinger and Varys didn't tell anybody their plans. But I feel like they probably, it felt like they should have almost. Like it felt like they kind of
maybe more to be continued with this.
The one thing that I will say that Glow pointed out now that we talked about this in the last year in spoiler section is like it's kind of unfair. He gave just for Littlefinger, he gave Littlefinger like a really good reason to kind of keep it confidential. He says Cersei shouldn't know, and you'll get like Harrenhal. Like he didn't really offer like Pycelle or Varys anything for like their quietness. So like. Yeah, that was a thing Glow pointed out.
Didn't he know Pycelle kept shitty secrets too? Didn't he say that?
Huh?
Didn't he say that? Like he knew Pycelle kept shitty secrets and like somebody told him it would make him super anxious and...
Reading that chapter again, it's kind of obvious like what's going on. Like I even mentioned it like he gives him 2 letters and 1 bird flies away. Like, it's kind of obvious like Pycelle's doing like something, is up to something there. And Jeff, he comes back to the table and he's like talking about, like, he's like, oh, this, yes, very. Jeff was saying like, he's talking like he knows.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so
tell me about why you're sending her. Tell me about what was in the letter. Yeah.
But again, like
it's basically how he was.
I would. There's no way. Like I don't think any of us picked up on this on our first read through. But like again, like things
I didn't have a fucking clue.
Things come of this, and like reading it back, you're like, oh, this is where all this starts coming from. Yeah. But again, I don't think we're super spoiling things, but like at this point, you have the information to like we haven't told you anything from the future. We've just like kind of
connecting dots,
specific
dots.
Yes, like specific paragraphs and like back to back.
Which is what I wish I did while fucking reading through the first time I'd read through.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. It'd be an interesting experience for sure.
Dude, no, it wouldn't. You just wouldn't understand it because I lived it. What do you mean?
You don't understand a lot of the stuff, but you still like you enjoyed it when you read it.
Yeah, but there's still like you get to the next part and you just be like, what the fuck? Like you don't have us explaining like, no, this is what that part was, or like, oh no, remember this happened. You're just fucking reading like, who the fuck is Fossilway? But then who the fuck is that guy?
I've talked about this a bunch, and I tell people this in my day-to-day life when I talk about what's going on here with this podcast. But there's pros and cons. So like, I mean, sure, I get some spoilers. Sure, like, yeah, it's weeks between I read sometimes, and like I forget a lot of this stuff. But at the other end of it, like I get a discussion, an hour and a half long discussion on it sometimes. that like I normally like I said, I mean, even like we talked about that shitty John chapter. Like normally you just blow through a lot of these chapters, and you kind of don't retain a lot of what you're reading. So I mean, there's like I said, there's pros and cons. It's got its benefits, and we kind of talked about my just in general how I felt about these books and like was I enjoying them and whatnot. And I'm getting more to the point now where I'm like I look forward to recording the podcast so I can read the next chapter. I do feel like it's getting a little more exciting. At least
we're going multiple in a week soon.
I'm ready whenever.
Maybe.
It's not true. It takes you the longest.
Yeah, I know. But if you guys told me, I would do.
I'm usually pretty booked out too. But so yeah, I mean it's definitely picking up, and it's getting more intriguing. So
to the pros and cons, I think what Jeff was saying to and what you're saying, like you didn't understand what's going on, Jeff, but like then there's something that happens later in the books like that, and then all of a sudden like you don't. The thing that Kyle gets that like you didn't get is he understands like all like. Or more of the intricacies of like what's going on, like how it's like kind of getting set up from chapter to chapter. You in like maybe 30 chapters, you're like, oh fuck, I think there was a Tyrion chapter where he was like having some weird conversations that like had something to do with this. Like now that kind of makes sense, but you never go back and read that chapter and like actually appreciate it. So like Kyle gets the appreciation, but you get that like cool, like, oh shit, that's what that was. And it's not that Kyle doesn't get that. There's a ton of shit that Kyle's gonna have that on. But some of the more intricate stuff like this, we help him with. Yeah.
More or less, like before we did this, we would discuss it and I'd be like, you'd be like, oh, well, what'd you think about? And I'd be like, who the fuck is that guy? And then you'd have to be like, oh, well, that guy is this guy.
Exactly.
And I'd be like, where the fuck's Dorn? Like, I didn't even know where Dorn was. Like, who the fuck's Dorn? You know what I mean? Like,
part of Jeff's problem was that you just like seen the show like 7 times and read the books once. So like a lot of your memory and again, like early on it's similar, but as we're getting forward, like the books and shows diverge.
I feel like that happens to a lot of people because I know some other people that are kind of reading the books and stuff right now and they're saying similar things.
Yeah.
I don't retain the 4th book at all. Like in my brain, I have no recollection of anything.
It's basically not in the show at all. I mean, it is a little bit, like I would say like 30% of that book is made into the show.
For the POVs, I did not like.
I don't even remember who the 4th book is. All right, let's close this up.
Yeah,
but I feel like it's gonna be way better reading it this way.
So, like I said, I don't really have much predictions. I think we're going to see more of Tyrion stuff unfold here, and maybe he's going to have a conversation with Pycelle, but I don't know.
So I'll give you one lead
on this one.
I'll lead you on one that's like kind of outside the Pycelle stuff. The Dorne marriage. Tyrion thinks is going to go through. Does it go through? If it does go through, like again, we don't really know much of Dorne. I will say that's one thing that was completely left out of the show. Is like there was very like little Dorne stuff, and there's way more Dorne in the books. Not that it's necessarily through this, but I like the Dorne stuff. And Jeff's characters, we're about to. I think by the time this podcast comes out, the new logo will be there. If not, we're fucked because I'm lying to everybody. But I think it will be. And Jeff, we all got dressed as different people, and Jeff got dressed as the Martells. So they're obviously actually in the books, not unlike the show. So yeah, just I made a weird, long-winded prediction. But any thoughts on the Marcello thing?
Oh, I was wondering if you forgot that you asked me a question.
No, I brought it back
because you kept talking. So I don't think it's going to go.
Nelson and kept talking.
I don't think it's going to go as in the Lannisters' favor as he thinks. I think the Dornish guys are going to probably like demand a little more or something here. I think if they get Marcello, I don't think it's going to be like what he's saying to Cersei.
Gotcha.
For what that's worth. Maybe Cersei's maybe a little more right. Like she is going to be a hostage kind of to some degree.
Gotcha. Cool. All right. Next chapter.
Bran
2, I think.
Bran.
We've only one, right? We've only one Bran, right?
Yeah.
All right, later, guys.
See you, Kyle.
Bye. See you, friends. Or friend.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
See you later, Cal. It was great hanging out, bud. We'll see you on the next episode for Bran 2. But now, on to the spoiler section of Tyrion 5. Guys, what hot takes you got for this one, boys?
What we got? I got a few.
So the only, I mean, I don't have anything hottish. I am surprised that Kyle didn't.
Hot?
Wildfire hot? There's a few wildfire related ones, probably.
I mean, are they going to blow up the sept in the show?
They find some under the sept. I don't know.
But they moved it. But they've since moved it.
No, they already found those under the sept.
Yeah, and
they've moved it. So now.
And I think they find more. I think they find like more in this book or the next book. They find more somewhere else, like under like a barracks or something. I think in like a different later in this book or somewhere
Cersei
else.
probably finds more when she's in charge.
They burn the Tower of the Hand later. Like that does not happen in the show. Like after Tyrion is gone, like after convicted of murder of Joffrey's thing and he escapes, Cersei thinks he's hiding in the walls because he came through the wall he snuck into Tywin's chamber. She knew he was moving through the walls. So she burns the entire Tower of the Hand with wildfire. And Jaime like is looking at her. This is after Jaime gets back and is saying like, holy shit, I've never seen anybody look like so like euphoric at something burning besides Cersei since Aerys. Yeah. Aerys burning people. And it's like
I didn't even remember that truly.
I think that like
how can they have been so good at maintaining the wildfire to just the Tower of the Hand? Like
I don't know.
Seems pretty dangerous.
But that quote I think is one of the big ones for like the theory that
Cersei's the Mad Queen.
That Jaime and Cersei are Targaryens is like that she is just like crazy obsessed with wildfire, just like and you flip
the Targaryen seed isn't very strong.
Flip the coin.
Oh, flip of a coin.
Jaime, Cersei, right? You have 50.
Is Jaime a good person?
And Cersei are the fucking Targaryens and not Tyrion.
I don't have enough evidence for this, and again, I'm just going off of a wildfire connection. We'll talk about that when we get there and fucking feast or whatever. But yeah, I'm not sure. But like the wildfire stuff is definitely weird. I'm not sure if Cersei's going to blow up the Sept of Baelor. I think what this is more like is, so what's one of the big thing people didn't like about season 8? The biggest thing?
It was too fast.
Season 8?
Danny flipped the switch too quick.
Danny flipped the switch.
Well, that's what, okay, yeah, because it was too fast of a switch. Is what.
So what was the result of the flip switch?
She became the Mad Queen
everywhere.
So everywhere. Did she burn everywhere?
King's Landing.
King's Landing. Come on.
Burn completely King's Landing. So like maybe say if she doesn't flip the switch, is there something that we just learned about in this chapter that like maybe
a dragon ignites a little bit of wildfire that ignites the whole thing?
Yeah, boom goes King's Landing. She like burns a tower house and boom goes King's Landing type thing. Exactly. Yeah. So again, I'm not saying I subscribe to that. That's a thing people think of. Like think might be a reason for like how if George said, yeah, King's Landing goes up in flames, Danny's the result of it, but like it's because of this. I don't know.
Wildfire,
you know what I mean?
Everywhere.
Yeah. Like why not just do that in the show? Who knows? But like. But again, it's some of this stuff is like, oh, that can't be true because that's not how it happened in the show. And it like, if the show people knew that, if George told them that, like, yeah, do that. Like, why not? But maybe they're just stupid, you know? So who knows? Maybe that could happen.
So I think Kyle, again, I think we said it the first time, like the chain idea, I think is Kyle's
spot
right.
on. It's hard for us. Like, I think Kyle, like when he's spot on, we don't know what to say.
Yeah,
and when he's not spot on, we just like want to feed him.
Yeah.
At least I do.
It's weird to me that they don't already have a chain. Like I feel like that's just like defend your bay 101 would be to be able to close it off.
What's weird is like how would you use that chain? You kind of just said it. You close it off so no one could come in.
Yeah.
That is not how Tyrion uses this chain.
They keep them in. They burn them and keep them in.
Yeah.
He does like a 1-2 punch, right? He lets them come in And then again, one of my quotes is like he tells Tyrion, "Be careful with this shit. Be very, very, very careful." Well, how does Tyrion end up using the wildfire? Kind of to Glow's point.
Remember.
What do you mean?
I remember how they do it in the show.
Catapults, spitfires.
They send out a ship and it's just leaking wildfire, and then Bronn shoots a flaming arrow.
Exactly. They basically fill up one ship with all the wildfire and send it out. So Tyrion does not have anybody throwing any wildfire anywhere. So like when they say be careful, Tyrion is careful. He does not like that. I guess whatever happens of this plot, like clay pot practice shit, does not go well. And Tyrion's like, okay, fuck, we're not doing that. Right? Maybe that's what happens.
Do we end up hearing about that?
I don't know, but I think we kind of get nothing about the wildfire from here on out, and it kind of becomes like a surprise. And it's funny. One of the I've heard like another person say like called the wildfire in this chapter like Chekhov's bombs. Like what Kyle was saying, he's like, it's just there's so much foreshadowing in this chapter that like there's going to be wildfire. First off, what's weird is there's foreshadowing there's going to be like wildfire issues, right? Like inside the city. Which does not happen. So, like, is it like false foreshadowing, or like, is there going to be wildfire issues inside the city still later on that we haven't seen yet?
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I don't know. Yeah. The wildfire thing is like,
or it could just be for the Battle of the Blackwater. But there's not much like Blackwater foreshadowing for the wildfire. It seems like it's going to go up bad in the city. It's kind of what it seems foreshadowing all throughout the chapter.
Yeah. Well, except for when they said that the Lannisters want to. If they could burn the lake or whatever, they would.
Yeah.
That was the only foreshadowing, basically.
That's true, yeah.
That was an Arya, though.
Yeah, that was the Arya one. The only other one I had was really small, and it was kind of just for Glow.
All right, before you hit on that.
Sweet one.
Oh, okay. There was a bunch of sweets, a lot of sweet sisters.
Sweet sisters, but this one I thought was weird. He said Doran would never hurt Marcella. Or would never hurt a girl. He's too honorable. He's too honorable for that, especially a girl as sweet and innocent as Marcella. Which, like, again, I don't know. Maybe we're reaching a little bit here, but there is some like when Marcella gets to the door and they're playing games and like swapping out. Like Marcella gets swapped out with a fake Marcella, and they like try and escape with her and shit. You know, like, again, none of that happens in the show.
Yeah, but like, that's weird because it's like Marcella is for what we know. An actually decent human being.
Yeah, but like we're just saying sweet means like lies and trickery.
Yeah, that's true.
What about when they go sweet, sweet? Is that like a double negative and then it's actually true?
Sister. I don't know. No, he says that after he gets punched, right? Or after he gets slapped. Sweet sister, you will not do that again.
Well, also with that too, when they do send her to Dorne, someone tries to kill her. Who is it? I forget. Was it?
Well, that's during the escape. Yeah, that's during the escape. And it's like still kind of in question who it was.
Oh, they blame it on
Darkstar.
Darkstar, that's right.
But there's like a lot of theories that it wasn't Darkstar. Who is the Dane? But again, we're getting so I mean, chapter
they blame it on him. It definitely wasn't him. That's what I remember.
I think it definitely wasn't. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. It's like, I think it's up.
I'm like 100%. That's like the one thing I remember from that fucking.
I think it's like up in the air who it is.
Dance of the Dragons.
But I don't think we know who it is. And the other big question is like,
I don't remember any of this at all.
They blamed it on
book 4. This is all book 4 with Gless. He doesn't remember.
I remember Aerys gets fucking like axed in the face.
Yeah, that's the same chapter. Yeah, same like 30 seconds.
Yeah, who's the dude that does it though?
Arya Hota, the big black in the show. It's the big black guy with the axe.
Yeah.
All right. Whatever. So the one thing that I thought was curious when I was reading it was the reference back to Ned and the gold cloaks. Do the gold cloaks ever? I mean, it's not the gold cloaks, but the fucking white cloaks end up trying to kill Tyrion at the Blackwater.
That's true. It never really comes to it with Tyrion. Like, Tyrion thinks a lot about it, like the whole Ned thing, but he never gets put really in the same situation that Ned did, where like it really comes to, okay, who has who has like
control of the people. Like he's not like fighting Varys ever. Yeah. Where it's like the gold cloaks might be.
And he also kind of has a little bit of influence with the gold cloaks because he put what's his name in charge,
Jacelyn.
Yeah,
at least
that was Varys' recommendation, wasn't it?
What's up?
Wasn't Jacelyn Varys' recommendation?
Yeah, Tyrion thinks like, Varys wants me to think that I replace Littlefinger's man with my own, but I probably just replace Littlefinger's man with Varys' man. Like Tyrion thinks that when he does that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of these early Tyrion chapters are great. And again, like the only real, I don't think we really crossed any lines with the whole Kyle thing for spoiling. The only, like the next thing that comes of this, I think is Tyrion shows up in Pycelle's bedchamber and cuts his beard off and sends him into the cells. Like at that point, like you when Kyle would have read that, he would have been like, oh shit, Tyrion figured out it was Pycelle. I guess that was the last Tyrion chapter. But then like
he was struggling with
like I said, you don't go back and read it. You just like, oh, that's what was going on.
But I don't know if he would have, because like he was struggling with the content of that Marcella was being shipped to both Dorne and the Eyrie.
To be fair, like I even had to spell it out for like one or both of you guys in that first Tyrion chapter. Yeah, like it's tricky what's going on there, right? Because like Marcella doesn't. You don't know what he tells. Like you don't know the information that Pycelle gets. Mm-hmm. And then you know what Varys and Littlefinger think, and they both make sense. Going into this chapter, you once you get the information of what Pycelle has, you have to retroactively think that does not make sense with what Varys knows.
All right, but here's to the point of if you really look at each option, okay, I'm going to say it like this. Let's just say that he said Marcella or Tommen to Dorne was the letter. Okay, Tommen to Dorne was the letter.
So Kyle and Varys thought.
Okay, yeah. So Marcella to the Eyrie, and then Varys is like, all right, that's what happens.
Yeah,
they could all go to Cersei with the same knowledge, and then you wouldn't have an egg to hatch, right? Because she would know that Tommen is going to Dorne, Marcella to the Eyrie, or both. They all come with that information, and you don't have an egg to hatch.
The thing is, one ship has literally sailed. Like, one bird has flown. Like, so that is definitely... if they all come to Cersei would be like, what? Like, whichever one... Like, either Varys or Pycelle, whichever one comes last, they're like, what are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense.
Right. But you know what I'm saying? Like, if Marcella wasn't getting shipped off to both, then there wouldn't be a conflicting story out there for...
Yeah. And you don't know that Marcella is getting chipped off to both until Cersei tells you that Marcella is who was in the Dorne letter. Yeah. And again, you don't even realize that it means both unless you really remember that the Littlefinger promise was also Marcella. Right. So it's not easy to pick up on.
So that's what Kyle missed on 100%. Was that Marcella was going both places. What'd she say? Dornish queen? Like, I pay your consent to the Dornish marriage. And he says like Marcella is going to get married to Trystane type thing. Like that's big. I mean, because if you were just listening to the last Tyrion chapter and you're like, oh, she's going to just the Eyrie and Tommen's to Dorne, right? And
the other thing was, I don't think Kyle quite even understood that Tyrion was trying to set them up. Like, until we told him that,
the 1, 2, 3.
Like, when we asked him what's going on with the 1, 2, 3, he said, oh, he's trying to get rid of all the kids. Like, he didn't think the 1, 2, 3 were for Pycelle and Varys. It seemed like he thought they were for like kids. He said like, I don't think these are real plans, but I think he was definitely confused about it, but he wasn't narrowed in on, okay, I'm trying to set these 3 guys up. So when he says like, oh, an egg's going to hatch and now I know who it is. Like if you weren't thinking he's trying to set them up like that, that's obviously confusing. And again,
for sure,
definitely no disrespect on Kyle. None of us would have got this at the first.
No, absolutely not. I'm never on a high horse on like, oh, Kyle's stupid, because I know for a fact I was stupid.
Yeah, it's definitely. I think Kyle's kind of getting. Ideally, what Kyle would be getting here is like, all the enjoyment of a first time read through, and then some of the added benefit of a second time read through. Right? He definitely can't get all of it because like. We can't in all the chapters we've talked about anything in the spoiler section. John being John's Azor High, John's a Targaryen. Like none of that. He'll appreciate the intricacies of the foreshadowing stuff until he actually does a reread, because we can't tell him that now. Right, but some of this stuff, like we can let him into a little bit more, like that you would miss over 2 chapters or 3 chapters.
What Kyle is getting is like watching a TV episode, and then right after the new TV episode, they go like, "Oh, watch the director's cut of this last episode."
Or you go to like that YouTube channel, New Rockstars, or one of those YouTube channels that does the breakdown.
Or Morning Throners after the new Game of Thrones episodes.
Exactly, right after Winds of Winter drops. Right after House of the Dragon drops, come to the Morning Throners website. Exactly. All right, guys. I'm not going to dilly-dally. There's a long non-spoiler section, so we'll keep it short for the spoiler section. I ain't got too much. We got Bran the next one. Meet Jojin and Mira for the first time. 2 goat characters.
Shit, that's this one?
2 frog eaters.
Yep. And I'm pretty sure it's a pretty short one. I think it's pretty much just like the feast hall where they actually like feast all the people that have now come to Winterfell, and then these guys show up
It's late. Like what? 2 days after everyone else shows up and they show up?
Yep, they show up late. They show up during the feast hall, and then there's probably one more scene in the Godswood with the wolves and Jojin at the end, if I had to guess. Maybe a dream or 2. But we'll get into it next time. It's going to be good. I think we're out of our... We'll definitely get... Again, Tyrion's definitely the heaviest
Are we halfway through this book? We're almost halfway.
Really? I was thinking we weren't even a third yet.
322.
Oh, we're definitely getting close. Definitely over a third then.
It's a third. Never mind. There's a lot of fucking pages.
Yeah, we're at 30.
969. I thought it was.
We're out of our like Tyrion spell though. Like we had like Tyrion, Arya, Tyrion, Sansa, Tyrion. You know what I mean? And again, Tyrion's the heaviest throughout this entire book. So we're gonna have mostly Tyrion, more Tyrions than anybody else. But we're gonna get some more people. I think we will get into another cat soon down with Renly. We'll get into a Dany again, Jon again. So get up to Craster's Keep. Should be good. Getting good. We're getting into the thick of the book. Keep staying with us. Again, join the Discord if you want. Give us a comment on the YouTube, like podcast, Apple review.
Just talk with us, guys. We're just here to talk.
Cool.
We're just here to talk Game of Thrones.
We just want more friends, all right?
Lord knows we don't make any money off this shit, so just give us some conversation.
Nelson's losing money. Talk to us.
100%. All right, bye guys. We'll see you in the next episode.
See you, friends. The night is dark and full of terrors.